In the story of creation, there are two falls, really. There's the fall of man, and there's the fall of woman. And we all know about the fall of woman. It's usually depicted in art as Eve reaching out for that delicious fruit. But I've always been fascinated with the other one, the fall of man, because as far as I can tell, he doesn't get enough credit for his part in the fall. You see, as Eve reached for the fruit, Adam stood there in silence. He neither warned her nor stopped her. He just watched her, and he watched her closely. As she made her decision, he observed her and took it all in. So what was going through his mind? What do you think Adam was feeling as he saw his wife decide to eat from the tree of knowledge? Well, the Bible doesn't say, and I believe that's intentional, because Adam's internal state is meant to be a mystery. We can speculate, of course, but speculation is all it would be, because we don't know what was in Adam's heart. But I've spent a lot of time thinking about this, and I've come to the conclusion that what Adam felt was fear. Now, before you stop this video, hear me out because I know what you're thinking. Adam had no reason to be afraid. God had just made the garden. Everything was new and perfect. The sun and the moon were shining brightly in the sky. The birds were singing sweetly in the trees. There was not a single threat anywhere in the garden, at least not yet. There was nothing for Adam to fear except making a decision, and that's exactly my point. You see, as much as the story of creation is a story about humanity's fall into sin, it's also a story about the human condition. And the human condition is characterized by anxiety and fear. Fear of making the wrong decision, fear of losing something precious, fear of changing something for the worse, fear of being left behind, fear of the future, fear of each other, fear of God. These are some of the things that make us human. And Adam's silence reveals these fears, because his silence is an admission that he didn't have the courage to speak up and convince his wife to stay away from the tree of knowledge. This is why I don't think Adam's silence is an example of surrender. To surrender is to yield to a higher power. It's to submit to a force greater than yourself. Surrendering is an act of faith and trust, and it's not characterized by fear. No, Adam was afraid, and so he remained silent. He feared the consequences of speaking, and he feared those consequences more than he feared disobeying God. Some people might say that Adam's silence was actually heroic. How so? Well, because he knew that if he spoke, he would be tempting Eve. By speaking, he could have convinced her to go against God, and that would have been a sin. Adam loved his wife very much, and he didn't want to tempt her, and so he remained silent. But again, I disagree. For me, this is another example of the human condition, our inability to know what to say in hard moments. You know those times when your friend is hurting and you don't know what to say? Or when someone you love is making a terrible mistake and you don't know what to do? Or when your country is at war and you don't know what to feel? Adam experienced this kind of paralysis. He didn't know what to say, and so he said nothing. He hoped that Eve would make the right decision, but he wasn't willing to help her make that decision. Some people might say that Adam's silence was wise. After all, God had given them only one rule, and that rule was not to eat from the tree of knowledge. That rule was pretty simple, and all they had to do was follow it. If Adam spoke up and told Eve to stay away from the tree of knowledge, he would have been tempting her, yes. Oh, but he would also have been reminding her of their one and only rule. He would have been reminding her that they were not allowed to do what she was about to do. But again, I don't think Adam was being wise. I think he was being fearful. You see, Adam was afraid that if he spoke, he would be showing Eve the reality of their situation. And that reality was that they were naked and unloved, that they were alone in a big and scary world that they were, utterly dependent on God's mercy, that they had nothing to offer him, that they had nothing to give each other, and most importantly, that they were powerless over their own destinies. Adam feared that if Eve heard these things, she would run away from him, from God, from the garden. And so he didn't say anything. What Adam was really afraid of was change, any kind of change. When he looked at Eve, he saw everything that was familiar and comforting to him. He saw his home and his heart, and the thought of losing that was too much to bear. So he didn't say anything. He just stood there and he watched. While he was watching, paradise began to die. Now, there's another way to read this story, a way that makes Adam the hero. Let's try it. Imagine, if you will, that Adam was created first. God made the garden and put Adam to work in the garden, And then God looked at Adam and said, "It's not good for the man to be alone." So God decided to create a helper for the man, someone who could complement him and complete him. And God took one of the man's ribs and made it into a woman. Then the man and the woman were both naked and unashamed, because they were perfect and pure. They were innocent and free from sin, and they were exactly where they were supposed to be. They had each other, they had God, and they had the garden. They had everything. And then the serpent came into the garden, and he tempted the woman, and the woman wanted to be more than she was. And so she ate from the tree of knowledge, and she gave some of that fruit to the man, and the man ate it too. So now they were no longer innocent and free from sin. Now they were ashamed and afraid. Now they were hiding from God and from each other. And now they were separated from the garden and from each other. The paradise they once shared was gone, and they were all alone. If we tell the story like this, then Adam's silence becomes an act of selflessness. He didn't have to eat the fruit, but he did, because he loved the woman. And in eating the fruit, he accepted the consequences of that choice. He knew that they would be cast out of the garden, but he didn't care. He didn't want to live in a world without the woman, so he ate the fruit and he chose her. So which version is true? Well, I believe both versions are true, because both versions are human. Both versions reflect our own experiences. For some of us, Adam's silence is a source of comfort because it reminds us that we are not alone in our struggles. We all feel lost and confused sometimes, and we all struggle with fear and anxiety. But for others, Adam's silence is a source of pain because it reminds us that we are responsible for our own choices. We can't blame anyone else for our mistakes. We can't blame God or our parents or our friends. We're responsible for our own actions, and we must take responsibility for those actions. Ultimately, the story of creation is a story about love, a love that is patient, a love that is kind, a love that does not envy, a love that does not boast, a love that is not proud, a love that does not dishonor others, a love that is not self-seeking a love. It is not easily angered, a love that keeps no record of wrongs. This is the kind of love that we should all strive for, the love that God has for us. And this is where we begin.